Hey everybody, welcome to the new Naked Dinery video live stream news talk experience thing that me and Andy have decided to do since we both have more time to do stuff on a regular schedule again
That's a very kind way of saying Andy's out of work.
now.
He's got time on his hands, and let's do this thing.
we're gonna try. Our plan. We're not gonna do guests on this version of the Naked Diner, are we?
In theory, we are not. But to tell you the truth, just like any diner, there could be blue plate specials at some
Oh,
point. I don't
okay,
know.
okay. There's room on the screen for another video feed if we really wanted to throw one in, I suppose.
Yes,
At some point,
indeed.
we could have special guests. Who knows? But what we want to do is we want to do twice a week, we want to talk about what's going on in the news for a little bit in the morning.
I think so. I think that's a great idea. And these are going to be stories that you will recognize, and there may be some stories that have got under the radar that maybe the media or news sources do not report.
Just because
Yeah.
they don't pop enough. They don't get the clicks.
Just because they don't get the clicks. But for our community, for the people who listen and watch this show, I think they will find the stories that we do choose to be a informative, not just a formative, but informative. Jack Maturko. That's what I think.
Yeah. So, all right. What do we got today then? Let's just go for it, man. We'll figure it out as we go. This is an
We
evolving process. This is just like the podcast, man. The first 10 are going to suck. Let's just own that and go for it.
I agree. So if we're going to go to the first story, this is the story one of the stories I picked out, and it's a big story. It's a big story because it's so silly. It is the five boats sink at Trump boat parade in
I
Texas.
love what I love about this story is that it's a perfect uh, metaphor for Trump's politics writ large, right? Because some people brought big honking yachts to this thing, and they made so much waves that it just bowled over all the poor people in like rowboats and shit. Yeah, go right ahead.
When several boats sank Saturday at and Trump supporters near Lake Travis in the statement wasn't what they intended. Created on it before long, office had received 15 distress calls. Three more reports.
Gee, who would have thought? But apparently they've done some of these boat rally things before, and that's another thing about this, right? These are all obvious. These are all people who can afford boats, who can afford to take a day to go and to afford a shitload of Trump flags. What do you? Because they put as many Trump flags on the boats as they could, right? So, what do you
Right.
figure? You got five or six Trump flags at what, $25 a pop, $30 a pop? What do you think Trump charges for his flags? Yeah, so you got these people shelling out like, hundreds and hundreds of dollars just to put on this stupid display of bravado. And then they fuck it up anyway.
Trump voters vote against their own interests.
At least the ones in the at least the
Vote.
ones in the smaller boats.
Oh, this is true. And the thing is that
They vote against their own interest. Very nice.
thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
that's good for this early in the
It's
morning.
thank you. It's a little bit later for me. Yeah. What's
8.
the eight? Oh, that's merciless.
Well, whose idea was it to
So
do this at this time?
The crazy one. That's one. The crazy one, Jack Macharko. I just want to say that the article does state there were no injuries among those who
Yeah, so
called
it's
for
okay to
help.
laugh
The
about. No
sheriff's
one got
office
hurt.
said it is okay. And the office said it found, quote, no evidence of foul play. So that means
Now, I did see a couple
no one,
Twitter people, Twitter troll types, making accusations of it being, of there being foul play involved.
like Antifa
Uh,
submarines.
yeah, and also one that said the entire boat sinking incident is a false flag. I saw one of those too. Because there's just crazy people out there sowing dissent.
Right. Well, they want to blame, and I'm going to be sorry for this. I'm going to apologize before this for the blue wave that completely decimated the Trump fleet.
Oh.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, that's plannable. Sure. All right, so that's what happened with the Trump boating people. Trump boats?
That's right.
Remember Swift boat? Trump boats?
Trump.
Can we make Trump boats a thing?
Oh, I'm sure there's already people making T-shirts and plastic toys of boats that have
You
Trump
know what the
insignia on
weirdest
them, and
Trump
that just would
memorabilia
float.
I've
That just
what's the weirdest Trump memorabilia you've seen? Cuz do you watch any of the late night cable commercials?
I see a lot on Amazon, to tell you the truth, and I have Googled Trump toys, and the most amazing Trump item that I've seen is the Trump toilet brush.
Okay, I think the Trumpy bear is ridiculous and the commercial's amazing, but there's also somebody made a commemorative chessboard. And they did not, I don't think they thought this through very clearly, because what they ended up doing was they had the former presidents and vice presidents as the rook, right?
Right.
So they have Bush and Cheney on the
Mm.
one side, and then they have Obama and Biden on the other side. But now Biden's a rook, so he can't be the king on the other side. So they just left that podium blank. And,
Are you trying to tell me that someone made a poorly thought out toy or a game? I
well,
find that hard to believe.
there's a double whammy there because they made presidential candidate and the vice presidential candidate the king and queen, which works great on the Democratic side where it's Kamala Harris. On the Republican
Yeah,
side,
this
they
is
just
true.
called Pence a queen, which I think is hilarious, but good for them.
Bam! Right there. I gotta write a blog post about Pence being the queen.
I'll find you the commercial and send it to you later. It's
Oh, please! I
yes, it's
think
a
that'll
laugh
be
riot.
hilarious.
All right, so moving on away from that bit of ridiculousness, what do you want to do? You want to do the GOP lawmaker story or the Extinction Rebellion story?
Let's do the progressive. Let's do the GOP looting homes with
This is
particulars.
yeah, scary, dangerous stuff. Yeah, progressive secular
Yeah.
humorist or
Uh,
humanist.
secular
You
humorist.
should probably buy Progressive Secular Humorist. That'd be a good one. Yeah.
Right on where I blog at. Lawmaker calls for the article.
Yeah.
Okay, so before you read the article, where did you think this GOP lawmaker was from?
Like just when I saw the title. I don't know because you sent me the article, so I clicked it and opened it so fast. I don't know if I really cognated at through the headline that much. You know.
When I first saw or Mrs. somewhere in the South, but no, my friend, this in question, Spillane, he is under burning and looting of homes with Black Lives Matter signs. And this is from another story from CBS Boston, a local news station. I'll just read you the first paragraph. to New Hampshire State Representative James Spillane by the state attorney general. Facebook, Spillane, a Republican, wrote, quote, public service announcement. If you see a BLM sign on a lawn, it's the same as having a porch light on for Halloween. You're free to loot and burn that house. Now, first, I just
Two
want to
things
stop right
there.
there.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Jack. You tell me what's wrong with that.
Well, okay. The first one, does that also mean that he thinks it's okay to loot and burn a house if they have their porch light on Halloween?
I've never heard of that rule.
That is not a rule that I'm aware of by any stretch.
Oh, my fictitious God, it's so horrible. Okay, so you said two things. The second
thing is obviously, first of all, do BLM have signs? It doesn't seem like the kind of organization that's going to spend money on laminated yard signs.
Some homemade signs, like people who've just taken, Black Lives Matter, put it on their, front lawn or in their window. I've also seen signs that say things like real clean water is important, those kind of signs. Right. So maybe he's talking about those.
Well,
so let me continue. WMUR9 reports a 4-term Republican state lawmaker and a call over a Facebook post he wrote this week that advocated blah blah blah. So that's basically it. He's being investigated. At least it happened in New Hampshire, where there is, even though it is a reddish state, it's a relatively sane state.
Yeah. And
that they're just not going to let it pass.
Yeah, well, at least they're not going to just let that happen.
Right. It isn't just the idea of, he's exercising his First Amendment rights to advocate the destruction of property, which I believe violates the First Amendment. But you might be more of an expert on this than I am.
Oh, yes, most definitely it does. And just any private property laws whatsoever. That's a whole other thing.
True enough. Crazy stuff, my friend, from New Hampshire, no less. And you know what? We've already gone into the show for at least 10 minutes, and we haven't even said that it's Labor Day. Happy Labor Day, Jack.
Happy Labor Day, Andy.
The idea that labor is so disregarded as a movement in this country is a shame, and that it should have the same kind of status as the military.
Yeah, I read an interesting bit this morning. Somebody posted a big ranty thing about Labor Day, and they remarked that it's interesting, and I agree that it is interesting that Americans celebrate Labor Day. Labor Day, the day that is supposed to celebrate the labor movement, by doing all kinds of stuff to make excess garbage to just make the garbage man's job harder on Tuesday, which is kind of fucked up. It just is.
Such are the consequences, right? The unpredictable consequences of one's actions.
Yeah.
It'd be as if Earth Day just make more trash for the Earth. Is that what you're trying to say? There's some kind of...
Has anybody done a study on
similarity?
That?
Oh, I'm sure that there's more trash on Earth Day because people are just out, even at like Earth Day festivals. It might be recyclable trash that they're making. I'm not sure. But there's probably a lot more consumption going on Earth Day.
It'd be interesting to know how many like Earth Day tchotchkes, like how many Earth Day 1994 tchotchkes are just in a pile in a landfill somewhere. That'd be a funny thing to know.
It would be. It would. So I have this Extinction Rebellion story on. It's a local story from Boston, Massachusetts. And now we both talked with Xeon Lights, haven't we?
A couple times. I messaged her the other day because I had a random idea, actually.
A random idea?
Yeah, I had a random idea where I was just like, hey, and I've looked into this a little bit. Apparently, a small nuclear submarine produces enough power to power a town of about 200,000 people. 200. So even when you get the bigger ones involved, and that number just goes up. And I was thinking, because Xeon's been pushing for transition to nuclear power lately. I don't know if you've been following her Twitter, but that's kind of been her thrust as of late. And so I was just like, can't we just like decommission these submarines and park them in an abandoned strip mine and use them to power, that former coal mine town as like a transition thing? And wouldn't that be cheaper than,
No, that's a very good point. I know that the Russians had a plan, and you might have heard about this a while back about doing these floating nuclear reactors,
which is basically a
uh,
nuclear submarine?
which is a nuclear submarine, except with all
The guns and
all the
shit. Yeah.
problems, all the problems of a nuclear submarine without any of the benefits, because it would be a floating nuclear reactor, which would be, of course,
Yeah, see,
subject
that's
to
the one thing.
minor things.
As a definitely not nuclear submarine engineer, I have no idea whether they actually need to be submerged in water to work. Like, I don't know if that's part of the system or anything. I do not know. So,
Right. So, pivoting to this story, I actually had a person from Extinction Rebellion in Boston, from the Boston chapter, on my Laughing in Disbelief channel, and had a nice hour-long conversation with him about his role in Extinction Rebellion and some basic Extinction Rebellion 101 stuff. And he turned me on to this story. It is what they did in the Boston chapter was that they did an open letter to WHDH Channel 7 News, basically calling them out for doing hardly any reporting on the ecological disaster facing us. And let me just read you a few bullet points from this letter. We found only 17 climate related video segments since January 1st, 2019. That is less than one per month for the greatest threat humanity has
now
ever faced.
this is WHDH is a local Boston station.
It is, yes, it is a local Boston station.
What
So
network?
I want to say it's CBS off the top of my head. I want to say it's CBS, but it's a major station. People click into it to see the weather, the sports, traffic, stuff like that. It's a good, it's a major channel here in the Boston area. So they've only done 17 climate-related video segments since January 1st, 2019. Of the 17, 8 were about protest actions. 4 were devoted to a single person, that's Greta Thunberg, and 4 were about aspects of climate change, politics, and policy. We only found one segment about the science or impacts of climate change, and that was a story about melting ice in the Antarctic. And they found no individual segments of the ways climate change is affecting or will affect the local region or the world at large. It's
That
crazy. That's what
that
it
does
is.
seem like something worth going to the local news and saying, "Hey, you should cover this."
Definitely. And you know what I think, and it seems to follow from the evidence of this article, is that 8 of the 17 climate related video segments were about protests. So if they didn't protest at all, it stands to reason that there would only be 9 climate related video segments since January 1st, 2019. So really, I think shows how important it is to actually go out there and protest,
Because
because that's how you get
it's the only
eyeballs.
thing that gets the media attention. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know. An area like Boston, I guess trying to get on the local news channels makes sense. Somewhere like that.
Sure, because we're trying to. A lot of Extinction Rebellion is trying to get divestment from fossil fuel companies, for an
Sure.
example, from the major universities and municipalities. Um, yeah, there was also an interest. There's a Citgo sign. You've been in Boston,
Yeah.
Jack. There's a famous Citgo sign by Fenway Park where the Red Sox play, and what they did, this team by this guy that I was talking to, William Livernois, they put a large climate change, a big Extinction Rebellion sign on the Citgo sign. They had it hoisted up, and there were engineers involved, and there were backup systems, and there were wind issues, but they were able to get the sign up successfully on the Citgo sign.
Have they considered spending money to just produce a package so that they can just deliver and say like, "Here, play this before sports."
I think that might cost money.
so did the big giant banner and the engineering and
Yeah, I think, and the thing is too, that when you do a large protest like this, you are forcing them to pay attention to you. And tell me if I'm wrong, but a lot of news organizations would rather just do something more clickable, right? There's a competition to get on the
sure.
news. And if you can make your organization pop by doing large theatrical type of events, then that'll get you eyeballs.
Sure, but if it you make it a lot easier on the person whose job it is to put the story together if you just send them a chunk of stock footage.
I hear what you're saying, and I believe you're saying this as a person who's trying to cobble content together. That's why I'm here. If I was going to play therapist, it's like I
Well,
hear
what
your
do you
concerns,
think
Jack.
those stringers who are cutting that shit together are getting paid, right? I mean, we're talking about local news. I mean, even in Boston, local news is
Oh
not what
yeah.
it was.
Oh, true enough. What I'm hearing is that you're making you're advocating for labor unions because we need labor unions, bringing it back to Labor Day, to make sure those poor people cutting tape or whatever they're doing, because they're not cutting tape, but they're stitching together stories,
Hmm.
get paid
Or
well.
reading,
And
just reading, the news feeds. That's somebody's job to look for stories.
yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
poor bastard.
Thankless work.
Yeah.
Thankless work.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's my 2 cents about that. Is they should
Yeah,
probably do a little, but it is weird, especially in local news, how little that stuff gets covered. I mean, you see it pop on the cable news channels a lot more often because they have the resources to make it a sexy
yeah,
story. Um, but yeah, local news doesn't really have that option, and who even knows anymore? So many local news channels have been bought up by major conglomerates that
this is
that
true.
to say that they're doing unbiased reporting is almost a joke. Even though the reporters are dedicated to it, they're still stuck with editors and whatnot giving them stories that don't really. I mean, ultimately, it's one person's
Yeah,
job to decide what stories go in and what don't.
yep, yep. And the idea about protests is, if you, like I said, if you make a big enough event, then you force media to pay attention to you, even if it's only for a 30-second segment.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's
So that's what I got, Jack Maturko. Those are my three stories that I thought were worth talking about.
yeah. I didn't look up what was new on Google News this morning because I knew you had picked those. But
Oh
let me
yeah.
pop over there and see what's in the headlines.
Okay.
Well, again, there you go. California wildfires. There's your environmental story.
That is correct. There, the wild. I guess this is wildfire season. I don't know when maybe there should just be non-wildfire season in California.
Is that like how daylight saving? There's more of the year is daylight savings time than it is standard time.
Yes, and I like how you pivot back to your own pet peeve about the daylight saving time.
Yeah,
I like
well,
it. I like it a
it's a
lot.
thing with me. Uh, but yeah, the wildfires season here has been pretty bad, and I think that's just generally exacerbated by the fact that everyone's also dealing with a pandemic. So, everyone has been locked inside. No one's been thinking about doing their yard maintenance. The government doesn't have the resources, so maybe they cut back a little on some pruning and whatnot. Some much needed Bureau of
Care.
Reclamation Maintenance. Yeah.
Right, 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 right,
Or
right.
not Bureau of
Yeah, I'm
Reclamation. That'd
looking.
be Department of the Interior, but reclamation's water. But whatever.
So I'm looking at this story from Google News. El Dorado fire near. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. I guess I will. Ucapa, sparked by pyrotechnic device at a gender reveal
Oh
party.
no.
At a gender reveal party, what happened? A smoke generating pyrotechnic device used during a gender reveal party sparked the El Dorado fire building near Ucapia, which has charred more than 7,000 acres,
That's gonna be
officials
that's
said
gonna be a
yesterday.
story those parents are gonna have to explain to that kid. For your gender
I
reveal party, we set half of California on fire.
but we're celebrating.
Poor kid.
Yeah. Uh, did you have a gender reveal party for your kid?
We did a little video.
You did a little
Yeah,
video,
but just us at the computer. It wasn't like, yeah.
right? I'm an old man, as anyone can see, and can probably hear in my voice. And the idea about gender reveal parties, I mean, if you do, that's fine. Just because I don't like something doesn't mean I have to crap all over it.
Right.
That's what I tell myself over and over and over again as I'm just about to crap on something. Gender reveal parties, they strike me as like graduation ceremonies for kindergartners.
Yeah, a little bit.
I don't know what we're celebrating. I don't know. We're celebrating
The fact that
like
the fact that the baby has a
a gender.
biological sex, right? Like
They have a biological
that's what we've
sex.
managed to establish. Hooray.
So riddle me this,
There
riddle
are
me this,
very
riddle
few
me this.
children who right, there are very few fetuses who don't have that.
If the baby is a hermaphrodite, is there still a gender reveal party?
Interesting question.
It is an interesting question because then you say to yourself, well, we're just happy the baby has a gender, well, or a sex. Well, what happens then? Are you going to start celebrating then? It just shows the absurdity. I'm doing some kind of
Have to
reductio
use
ad
two
absurdum
smoke
argument.
bombs. The wildfire would be twice as big, but the smoke would look like one of those unicorn swirlies that were popular a couple years ago.
I'm intrigued about what kind of pyrotechnic device, because having some experience on film sets, I don't think any of our smoke machines that we've used actually were fire hazards. I could be wrong. It's been years since I've actually operated one.
I don't. I well, smoke machines are a different animal altogether because they're actually making like some sort of vaporous mist, right? Like it's some sort
Right.
of kerosene-based vapor something, isn't it? I don't
I
know.
don't know, dude. Gender reveal
Sounds to me
parties
like
will
it was
never
just
be
a
the
smoke
same.
bomb.
Probably just a smoke bomb, dude. So what's the next story you want to talk about?
Oh, do you want to do international politics or national politics?
Oh, I'm locked and loaded. I can do either.
All right. Well, let's go with the Hill has a thing that says that more voters think Trump will win debates than Biden.
Which is interesting because when you look at how he did with debating Hillary, I think each debate Trump didn't come out of those debates that well. He ran a good he ran campaigns that and eventually beat Hillary. But in terms of debate performances, he did not get much of a bump from those debates with Hillary. It's interesting how this kind of
It's kind of a question of whether or not the debates even matter anymore.
yeah, I tell you, if I was on the Biden team, and I don't know if we talked about this offline or not recording this, but the best thing that Biden could do is do this stuff on Zoom, to have a Zoom debate with Trump.
You think?
Yes, and you know why? So let's say,
I
okay,
don't
so
know
I'm
about
Joe
that.
Biden. I'm Joe Biden, and you're Donald Trump. I tell you, look, we're going to be doing these debates on Zoom. What do you say?
Okay. No, because he wants a live audience.
He wants a live audience, and I would say, as Joe Biden, look, you can't be trusted. You can't be trusted. You weren't able to be trusted with the health of the nation. You certainly can't be trusted with my health. I can't
Oh,
trust that you're going to stay
because
within
of
6 foot
COVID?
distance. You don't wear your mask. We're doing this on Zoom, whether you like it or not. And if you don't like it, then I don't need to debate you anyway.
Interesting
That's what my
premise
track.
to just.
That would be my tack. I would not debate him in person. It would infuriate Trump too, because Trump is a brawler and Trump wants to get physically close to Biden. He wants to get in the same room with
I
Biden.
think that
And
I don't know. I think if that happened, then at least at least on Fox, they would still hold the debate. Just say Biden refused to come, and give Trump an hour and a half to just say whatever the fuck he wants on national
Well, that's
television.
Fox News. People are going to win. People are going to, Trump voters, the 25% of Trump voters that there are, will be like, say, Biden is afraid. While on the other hand, you take care of the narrative. You punch first, and you
See, that's
are in
why I think
charge of the narrative.
I think that, a something that's not going to happen, but in my if life was a comic book brain, like something that would be ideal marketing wise would be like if they have the debate, Joe just waits for Trump to insult his dead military soldier's son, and then punch him in the face.
Well, it's an interesting question about whether or not Joe would cry first, or whether or not, because they're billing Joe as the empathic guy,
Yeah.
or whether or not he would punch first. And I just want to go back to the idea about how a Zoom debate would affect Trump. I'm not hoping that Donald Trump gets many strokes, or maybe not so many strokes. There's this rumor that he had to go to the hospital a while back because of many strokes. But I think Trump is much more likely to blow a gasket on a Zoom debate out of frustration than on a live debate. And
Yeah.
I just want to tee
No,
this up.
definitely.
There's a greater chance of seeing Trump stroke out or have a major heart attack on a Zoom debate, and that's what
Or at
I'm
least
shooting
get
for.
all puffy, red faced, and yelling. Not a good
Oh
look.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you could just see him. You could just see him do the debate, the screen, and then he just kind of like, just falls in some kind of hilarious fashion. I would pay to
Like
see that, Jack.
one of John Belushi's weekend update rants.
Completely, completely. It would be just like that. So that would be my Christmas present from Jesus if he was going to do that.
Now's your chance to turn Andy, Jesus.
That's right. This would be the chance.
Calling you out,
Zoom.
buddy.
Yeah, that's right. I may convert for that kind of present.
That kind of.
Indeed.
Well, all right. So I think that does it for me with the news stories. You just wanna we're gonna do something on this show that we haven't done because it just sounds fun. We are going to switch over, and we'll be back in a minute, and we're gonna watch a cartoon. I've been doing this on the show I've been doing for the Satanic Temple. I've been digging through archive.org a lot to find funny old PSA commercials to use in my interstitials. And you stumble along onto a lot of cool stuff that's public domain that's just, fun to watch and interesting. So we're going to start playing these, but they're just too long for me to use on that show. So I figure we'll do morning news and then some cartoons because
I like
we're
cartoons.
Gen X and that's how we grew up, right?
That is correct. And it looks like we're going to be making fun of some old school circa 1948 cartoon here, Jack Majorco.
Yeah, there was a series of these by a guy, John Sutherland, who did a bunch of these weird kind of anti-communist propaganda cartoons that were produced by Hanna-Barbera. So I found one of these, and we're gonna watch this one because I think these are fun cartoons for the time period, right? Like if you're into the old cartoons, it's weird that this style of stuff was out there as propaganda and not just kids cartoons,
Right. Indeed. Indeed.
Okay, so we're gonna set that up, and we'll be right back in a sec, and we'll just start rolling.
Cool. Go.
Have you ever seen this one before, Andy?
Never have. No.
This is yeah, these were so weird. But I love stuff that's made for the government purposes, because that's usually, you know, work under contract and automatically is public domain as government work, you know.
That's good.
So
America
neat little thing
is
to know.
many things to many people. To a 17-year-old kid, it's the malt shop
I love that
on
they're
the
all
corner.
white. I know this is surprising, right, for a 1948 government cartoon
To
about
Grandpa,
freedom.
It's
Yeah.
the front porch in the cool of the evening.
I think this is what amazes me about it.
To
This is like
Mother and her
feels like
family,
something you'd get in
it's
elementary
church
school
on
civics
Sunday
class.
morning. And to
When the
Dad,
teacher had
Oh,
a
right.
his
hangover.
favorite relaxation.
I like how they use all these stereotypes too.
It's
Mom
the
goes to
crocodile
church, Dad
philosophers
plays
in
golf.
Crabtree
Uh-huh.
Corners. And it's the tycoons in Wall Street. It's all races, creeds, and religions.
Oh, you got a couple of
It's
non-white
freedom
people.
to work at the job you like. Freedom of speech and to peaceably assemble.
Well, some things don't change.
Freedom to own property. Security from unlawful search or seizure.
Where's your warrant, Flatfoot?
The right to a speedy and
Not
public
very
trial.
friendly to Blue Lives Matter, my friend.
No, not very
Protection
friendly.
against
Oh,
cruel
that
punishments
last
and
one,
excessive
that was
fines.
like jury nullification cause hot chick, which is
The
weird.
right to vote. And to worship God in your own way. It is these freedoms that have made America strong.
Okay, so we got our freedom. But management's lousing up everything.
Labor is at fault. It's ruining the country. My constituents, as your elected representative, I can assure you
I don't know who
Labor's
that
right.
guy was supposed to be.
Management's right.
I
Like,
Like,
don't
you
know.
know he's supposed to be
Labor,
some
management,
parodying
politicians,
some
bullies.
politician, but
They can't tell corn
Yeah.
from oats.
I like how the farmer doesn't have all his teeth. So you can just tell the way he's written.
Here's the answer to your problems. Dr. Utopia's sensational new
this guy, I
discovery
mean,
is
usually
will cure
when they
any
have like
ailment of the body
a
politic.
devil figure
It's
like that
terrific. It's
in this era of
tremendous.
stuff.
Once you
Right, 'cause
swallow
you
the
can tell he's got the
contents of this
pencil
bottle,
mustache and the
you'll have the
hair and the
bountiful
red-
and the
benefit
red
of
suit.
higher
They're trying to
wages,
make him look
shorter
devilish.
hours,
You're
and
European,
security.
or Southern European,
Enormous
right?
Yeah,
profits,
right? This
no
is like-
strikes. Remember, you're the big
You have all the
boss.
nice white people.
Government
Anti-Italian,
control, no
like-
worry about votes,
I don't
make
know. Yeah.
your own
So
salary.
weird.
Bigger crops, lower costs. Why, ism even makes the weather perfect every day. And now then, because we are introducing this amazing item for the
Do you know
first
that,
time in this country,
Merriam-Webster
it
has
isn't going
11
to
different
cost you
definitions
one
for the
cent.
suffix ism.
All you have to do is sign this little
did not
scrap
know
of
that.
paper, and you get your
Covers a
bottle
lot of ground.
absolutely free.
I
Well, I would-
hereby
I would
turn
think
over
so.
to ISM Incorporated everything
So
I
is that
have,
bull there
including my
supposed to be
freedom
bull poo?
and
Is that
the
what the
freedom of
joke
my
is,
children
Jack?
And my
I
children's
don't know.
children,
Maybe it's
in
supposed to
return
be.
for which said ISM promises to take care of
what's
me
that?
forever.
Some bullheaded deity that they sacrifice people to. Ball.
I don't know. But it strikes me that it's more like a joke about bullshit,
And
to
who
tell
are
you
you,
the
my
truth.
Could
good
be.
man?
I'm John Q. Public.
Ah, my fine friend, you're just in time to share this generous and gigantic offer. Sign right here.
Mind if I read it first?
Hurry up now, here.
I know what he's doing.
I was here first. Keep your shirts on, boys. You know, including my freedom. Freedom? Well, sign away my freedom. Why, this is ridiculous.
Don't be corny, brother.
Sure,
Corny.
our system
slander.
of free enterprise isn't perfect. But before we throw it away for some imported double talk, let's turn the clock back
There's
a
your
few years to see
European-
what it's
it's
done
European
for us.
sentiment again.
For
Imported double
example,
talk.
Yes,
back in the
yes.
1890s, Joe Dokes was just a guy who
You know,
This
during
is,
the
this is
1890s.
good, honest, wholesome
barn.
American propaganda.
Some people thought Joe
Oh, yeah.
was lazy.
You know, there was a great
Some even thought
great
he
stock
was
market
nuts.
crash during the
But one
1890s too.
day, he had an idea.
Supposedly it was
And because
a
he
pretty
was
major
free to
event.
dream his dream and tinker, Joe had a chance to make something of himself and his idea. So,
You know,
of course, some people didn't think so much
This
of
is a
Joe's
pretty much of a
idea.
sausage fest. There's like a lot of dudes here. You had one hot cartoon girl, woman, and just basically
Joe
dudes
got
running
some
around
money
after
from
that.
young
Oh,
Aunt
hey.
Minnie and Uncle Angus.
Now, when I saw this initially,
Yeah.
and
this is
Grandpappy.
all about white privilege here. What do you
And
have
Mr.
generational
Tights.
wealth that you can pass down to your
When Joe's
Right.
friends
to your
and relatives
You have just
entrepreneur?
bags
to
of
help him
cash
buy
that no
tools
one
and
knows
property.
about lying
They were
around.
capitalists.
Can you
Right.
invest that
Those
in
blood
the
folks.
invention of the
It's nothing to be
automotive
ashamed.
industry?
Now, naturally, Joe needed
Yeah,
some
this is a
help.
great argument that why white
So he
privilege is a
hired Willie
thing.
Lumpkin, who was out of work anyway. And before long, Willie had the know-how and became skilled labor. Because capital, management, and labor work together, Joe's
No, they work
idea
together
grew.
harmoniously.
Together in
It grew
peace and
and did
harmony.
things even
Yeah.
he never dreamed of.
People didn't have to die.
Today, the
for the right to
automobile
strike.
industry provides millions of jobs that never existed before. And remember, this is a story of only one industry. There are thousands more scattered all over the United States whose history of development is
What was,
pretty
what
much
was
the
the
same.
U.S. population in?
We've built
what
a
was this,
country under the
1947?
American system that sends more
I'm not
young
sure.
people to
I'm
high
not sure.
school and college than all the rest
Also,
of the world
this is
combined.
this is
Statistic.
Why,
basically
even in the
post World War
Depression,
II when
our
America was the
wages
only
bought
economy
more
that
food, clothing, travel, and
was still up and
entertainment
running.
than the wages of any other people in the world.
Yeah, all these statistics are
Our
just
country
flim
has
flam.
a national income equal to the total national incomes of any other 6 nation in the world.
Well, that's
With
because
only
they were
7%
blonde.
of the
Or,
Earth's-
or,
we drive 70% of the world's automobiles.
And
That's
that one's
6%
fun, you know,
of
even
the
though we were
things the
just 3% of the
capitalistic
population, we
system
have
has given
70%
us
of the
in
world's
only
automobiles. That's not one to be
160
proud of
years.
right now.
no.
Before signing up, you boys ought to try a little taste of Dr. Ism's formula to see what you'd get in exchange for your freedom. Go ahead, try it.
I feel like the ism salesman there should have really protested about
The
some
state
random
forbids
passerby
strikes.
giving away free samples of his bread.
Oh, he
The
should,
union
yes.
hears about this. Ah, yes, the union. Welcome to our ranks, number 1313.
Not 13, 13. That's
Anything,
double on
that's double bad luck.
case to the Supreme Court.
The state is the Supreme Court.
The state
Our
has always
decision
been the
is as
Supreme
follows.
Court.
Yeah.
No more private property. No more you.
The farm vote will put a stop to this.
Farmers don't vote anymore.
What'll they do for seed next year?
You won't have to worry about next year. The state will do your planning from now on. We must fight to regain our freedom, or everything is lost. Everything!
Everything is
The
fine.
corrupt politician is
Everything is
now
fine.
there to
Everything is fine.
defend quote-unquote
Everything
freedom.
is fine. Everything is fine.
When anybody preaches disunity, tries to pit one of us against the other through class warfare, race hatred, or religious intolerance, you know that person seeks to rob us of our freedom and destroy our very lives. And we know what
Which
to
is
do
to
about
say,
it.
don't bring it up.
Gentlemen, no violence.
Don't bring it up, man.
Don't throw those bottles.
Well, once again, there's no real discussion of what it takes to get those rights to begin with if you're black, if you're brown-skinned, if you're
Working together to
everyday
produce an
worker.
ever greater abundance of material and spiritual values for all.
Spiritual
That
value,
is
Jack.
the
You have
secret
spiritual
of
value?
American
No.
prosperity.
All right. That was great.
Aren't those fun? We've got a
That was
ton, and
fantastic.
you know, we can also slip into once we start doing this on the regular. There's just a wealth of free to use public domain content out there that we can just go nuts with. There's lots and lots of it out there, Andy. Including like not political stuff, you know, like we can throw in some Superman cartoons and some, I think there's some Popeyes and, you know,
The Superman cartoons from like the 30s. I love those cartoons.
yeah, a bunch of them are public. Several of them are public domain.
We got to get into that, dude. That's gonna. Yeah, those are great. I watched those when I was a kid.
Well, there you go. We'll just make sure to have our bowls of cereal ready when we do the good cartoons.
You know, is it possible for us to do something like Nosferatu, which I know is a completely. And for those of listeners who don't know what Nosferatu is, it is the 1922 movie, German,
Yeah,
silent.
we totally could. That'd be a long episode.
We'd have to get a bunch of drinks, maybe get another person
That
in.
seems like a. Maybe we'll do special video streams every once in a while. That's like Naked Diner Nights.
Nights, exactly. Classy nights.
I mean, we'll have to watch. Assuming all of this went okay, and there's not anything that's not fixable in this first stream, you know.
Right.
We'll just have to. We'll see how that goes. As long as watching that worked for everybody. I don't know. I haven't been watching the comments. I don't even know if anybody's looking. Doesn't look like anybody's even looking.
Well, we're gonna find out what kind of excitement. This is a good test.
It's a good test.
I feel.
We definitely need to clean things up and.
Yeah, I feel like the video format is hilarious, and we're gonna have a lot of fun with it.
Okay, well, that's what this is going to be, folks. Mondays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Pacific or 8 a.m. Pacific.
Great. So, Jack, do you have anything you want to plug before we head out?
Not right at the moment. Well, you can go check out my back episodes of An Ongoing and Necessary Pursuit and The Devil's Dispatch over on the satanictemple.tv if you want. I've got 2 shows there at the Mo. And then, everything. Both of those are on hiatus right now. I've been taking the month or so in the summer off to get some stuff done, but those will be coming back pretty soon, and there's a bunch of really cool stuff to check out there. So go do.
Go do. You can catch me, dear listeners and viewers, on my YouTube channel, Laughing in Disbelief, and I'm also co-host for the Daily Atheist Morning Show, Monday through Fridays from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern.
So you'll be coming off of that right as you go into this. Well, good.
Exactly. So I'm going to be in the mode.
You're going to be in the zone, ready to go.
Ready. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So once we iron out whatever bumps we find in this one, I think this can work.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be fun. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.